Welcome to MCN and our 2023 long-term test fleet bikes. Today we're talking about this Harley-Davidson Low Rider ST with Saffron, who's one of our reporters for MCN. Welcome to the video.
Thank you.
Just before we dive into what the bike's like, just tell us a little bit about your riding experience and what kind of bikes you like and what kind of bikes you've had.
Right, well, this is a bit of a special year for me because this is a Harley, obviously, and I actually have an older Harley-Davidson as my personal bike. But equally saying that, last year for a fleet bike, I had an Aprilia Tuareg. I nearly said Transalp. An Aprilia Tuareg, so I got a bit of an off-road bug last year. But I do like the look of things like the naked retro bikes. So I like the look of Triumph Bonnevilles and the Moto Guzzi V7. They're my sort of taste. So yeah, not too far removed this year.
No, exactly. What I've asked you to do, and you very kindly provided, is a little list detailing what you like and what you don't like about this bike. So we'll start with the good stuff, and we'll start with the engine, which you really like. So tell us a little bit about that.
So this is the Milwaukee 8 engine, the 117, and I knew it was going to be a good engine because I'd seen reviews of it before I got the bike, but I didn't realise how good it was going to be. It's punchy, it's smooth, and it's still got that really nice Harley-Davidson sound. But the only issue I had with it really was the clutch was a little bit heavy, but that's like that with all Harley-Davidsons. They probably need to move that along a bit, but you know, as far as I was concerned, I still managed to get through all the miles I did without any issues, and yeah, just fell in love with the engine.
So you say you've got your own Harley. What engine has that got in it?
That has a twin cam in it, so that's a couple of generations back now, and it's a lot, you can tell the difference. This is so much smoother.
This is smoother?
Yes, absolutely.
Punchier?
Punchier, yeah, it goes like you wouldn't believe. I was actually really surprised when I first got on it. I didn't realise how fast I was going until, you know, I looked down at the speedo. Yeah, I was really surprised how good, well, how nice and smooth it is and how quickly it goes, especially because Harleys are known to be the plodders. But as far as I'm concerned with this bike, that's not what you get at all.
Is it quite manageable at low speed around town? Is the throttle nice?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So because it's got the low tick over. It's quite nice just to kind of like tick around town and things like that. It doesn't feel like it's revving too high when you're in any when you're in any gear really, even when you get up there. And it's quite nice. The actual handling of the bike itself, I think we're going to go on to that anyway, but it's so smooth around town. It's lovely. I've taken it through London a couple of times. It's been great. So.
Just the right amount of vibes still.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
give it the character. The torque of the engine, you like that?
Yeah,
well, Harley's all about torque. They don't even quote power figures. It's all about the torque,
It's all about the torque, yeah. So, to be honest, you don't even need to go down to first gear because you're probably going to be able to lift off wherever you are. And, you know, sometimes in those situations where you've forgotten, if your mind is elsewhere, you can get out of a lot of situations just because the torque is so good on this.
There's so much torque. I don't know if you know, what about the gearbox in this engine? The gear's good?
The gears are good. I did have a couple of issues after very, very long rides when I got wet. When I first got the bike, that it didn't want to take the lowest gears after a really, really long ride. But after a service, that kind of disappeared anyway. So I think it was just a case of a bit of overuse and needed everything tightening up for that first service. But no, they click through really nicely. It's a Harley, a little bit agricultural with the gears, but to be honest, it's quite nice. It's quite nice to feel it click into place.
Yeah, cool. Right, another thing on your good list is the accessories. So these are the accessories you've added? Yes,
these are the accessories I've added. So originally the bike came with a single seat, fairing, and that was pretty much it. What I've added is the sissy bar with the back pad, the two-up seat, and the speaker system inside the fairing, and I've also got different foot pegs as well because it came in a package.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what is it that makes this bike the low rider? Is it seat height, obviously?
Yeah, definitely seat height. So it's very, very low slung. That seat's actually a bit taller than what it originally was. So initially it's very, very low slung. Yet the pegs are now mid controls, so you can still go around corners without worrying about scraping anything. And you've got quite a reach at the top, so it's very much a cruiser kind of tourer. Thing going on.
You taking pillions? That looks quite comfortable.
I haven't taken pillions. I put the two-up seat, one because I wanted to change the seat, as I'll discuss later, and 2, because I wanted to take some extra luggage, because I ended up going to Budapest on this.
Did you?
And the 2 panniers didn't quite manage to take all my stuff effectively.
How far was that?
That was about 3,000 miles there and back, because I diverted down to Lake Como and the Alps and things like that on the way. So.
How nice is that? And how long did it take you to do that?
Oh, I did that in there and back in a week, I think.
3,000 miles in a week?
Yeah, it was a very long week.
Wow.
But yeah, it was good.
That's impressive. I don't know what to say about that. That's really surprised me.
I got back in 2 days. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not really the kind of bike you would imagine as being a tourer, but...
Well, yeah. Well, when I've gone into dealerships, they've kind of said to me, they've marketed it as a small tourer. So people who are a bit shorter or maybe aren't as confident with the really big bikes can have it to go long distances, and it can do that. It can definitely do that. But I have had to make a few modifications to make it good for me for touring. So.
How many miles have you done total?
I think 10,300 and something.
In how long?
I've had it since April, so what's that? April, May, June, July, August.
You've hardly been off it.
6 months, yeah, hardly been off it.
Brilliant. Oh, that's awesome. Styling is a good point.
Well, I think look at it. If you're into cruises,
yeah,
it just looks lovely, doesn't it? Can't really say much wrong with it, to be honest. I have to admit the air intake, I was a bit.
Yeah.
That's standard. I thought that was going to be a bit of an extra part, but no, that's standard. So it's still got the flashy bits that you would expect from a Harley. But I think as a mini cruiser, effectively, I think it just hits the bill with its styling.
What's
the
your
sleek
favourite
lines.
design feature?
Oh, I'm not sure.
With just everything working together as a...
I think it does. I'm not a big fan of fairings normally, but I think it works really well on this one.
Yeah.
I think it works like as a fairing as well, which I was surprised
It must
at.
do.
Yeah, yeah. And the panniers, I think they're not too intrusive either. They've got the really nice subtle lines that go along with the bike. So.
Ah, excellent. Okay, next on the list is the noise of it. Harley soundtrack.
It's definitely got a Harley soundtrack. The engine sounds really good, like I said earlier. But with my bike, my personal bike, I've got some straight through pipes. Even though they've got baffles in it, it's far too loud.
Yeah.
This is not too loud, but it's still got that nice Harley sound in it.
Would you be tempted to put a louder exhaust on if this was yours, or are you happy with it being a little bit more muted?
I think with the miles, because I do quite long miles, I don't think I'd want a louder exhaust because I'd get a bit of a headache, effectively. But I would be keen to try and stage 1 the whole thing to get a bit more punch out of it, and maybe change the exhaust up just to see what happens. Yeah. Really. What's
the stage 1? An exhaust, different intakes, different fueling?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just a bit of a tune-up of the engine, effectively, just to make it a little bit more punchy. A
bit more peppy. And you like the size of it? So the physical size? Yeah, so I had the privilege of riding the Harley CVO Street Glide up to Thunder in the Glens this year, and that is your big tourer. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I loved riding it, but it was a big bike. And I think for a lot of people that can put you off, especially with Harley-Davidsons, because they're quite heavy. And I think this, for a lot of people, it's small enough to be easy to handle. Yeah. But you still got that whole Harley-Davidson look, and it's still a tourer. Yeah. So. I mean, it looks physically small. It looks quite easy to manage. Yeah, definitely. Is it heavy? It is heavy, but it's so the centre of gravity is so low. It's still quite nice to ride. It's not as heavy as other Harleys I've ridden anyway. Yeah. So. Okay, and the versatility of it you like? Yeah. So like I said, I've been to Budapest on it. I've also been through London on it. I've been down to Land's End on it. I've been up to Scotland on it. I've been everywhere on it, and it's just handled everything beautifully, to be honest. Yeah. I've had to change it a little bit just to take a bit more luggage. But equally, if you wanted it just as a town run around with a single seat, it looked great and it handled it perfectly. So yeah, it can do whatever you need, really. How much is this, incidentally? It's around 20,000, but I think we'll put the exact number on the screen. Okay, so it's not a cheap bike? No, not at all. Not a cheap bike. Okay. So handling compared to older Harleys? Yeah, so like I say, I've got a bit of experience with that. But this was beautiful around town. I was filtering, when I was in Italy, I was filtering with the Italians on the little scooters, absolutely fine. I was following them fine. And I never felt like it was going to slip away from me, which
you know, sometimes with the old Harleys, it does feel like a bit of a boat because that's, you know, they're for America, they're for long sweeping bends. You don't get that with this. It's a bit more tailored for the UK roads. And yeah, it handled great.
Ride quality?
Yeah, really, really smooth. Suspension works really well. Yeah, no complaint to that whatsoever.
Yeah. What about the braking? The brakes?
The brakes, so initially they were really good. After a bit of wear, you know, they need tuning up now.
Yeah.
But as you imagine with all brakes, that happens. Initially I was quite impressed with the brakes, especially considering how heavy the bike is.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was
yeah,
quite...
they've got a lot of weight to stop them there. The fairing, you like the fairing?
Yeah, so it's small, so you don't feel like you've got a whole boat that you're having to control here, but it still works really well. Some people have complained that there's a little hole in it and it gets you right in the face, but I never had an issue with that.
Oh, this vent here?
That vent, yeah. When I was out and about, people said, yeah, it hit you right in the face, but I think I'm low enough, so it didn't quite do it for me. But yeah, it works really well, kept most of the rain off of me and the snow, so yeah, worked really well.
And you like the mini screen? The lack of toys, but it's nice and compact.
Yeah, so if you look at the screen in front of it, you haven't got much there, that's all you've got.
Oh, the dash screen,
yeah. Dash screen.
Yeah, where is it all?
Yeah, that's it, that's all you've got.
That's it?
So without the fairing, that's all you've got.
Wow.
It's, yeah, nice, small and compact, but it has all the information you need. So.
I probably wouldn't be able to read this, it was too small without putting my readers on first. It's cool. Just tell me, off-piste, what is it about Harley-Davidsons you like?
Well, I've grown up with Harley-Davidsons, so I was kind of like shoveled into it. I had no way to turn. But I think it's more of the culture. I feel like people who own Harley-Davidsons will talk to other people with Harley-Davidsons.
Yeah.
And they would just be friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Harley Owners Group is like one of the biggest in the world because it just has that fascination with the brand and no one can quite put their finger on why.
Yeah.
But it is just, I think it's very much the American dream and the the ideal, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's kind of like spilled over into the UK a little bit.
Yeah.
But I just think they look really nice as bikes as well.
Good, right. I've had to twist your arm to give me some bad points. There's not so many. The first one we touched on is the price of it.
Yes. Yeah, so for the price of it, there's a few bits I'd expect a bit nicer finishes really.
Yeah.
So it's a bit, you can see a couple of the bolts sticking out in here. It's a bit plasticky in some places.
Oh, you can't, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd just expect a little bit of a nicer finish for, you know, such a big price tag.
Yeah.
But you've got a lot of bike with that price tag, I admit that. But yeah, just a couple of little bits like the exhaust has started to rust already because of the water vapour coming out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a little bits like that, really.
Okay. The plastic inners, cheap finish.
Yep, so I've just mentioned that now.
These infill panels here, they do look a little bit, it's because there's so much of it.
I think so, I think it's because it's right in your face all the time,
exactly.
you can really pay attention to it.
The air intake.
Yes, so it's such a big thing and it is so Harley, so quintessentially Harley, but when you've got your leg next to it the whole time, you can hit your knee off it quite a few times.
Oh really? You haven't got any giving it, is it?
Yeah, and you are a bit worried that you're going to drown in in heavy rain as well. But
what would normally be there?
it would just be a bit of a smaller one, but it's just massive on this.
Yeah.
And like I get it from a styling point, but I'm not sure it's quite right for the UK, if that makes sense.
No, as a touring bike.
Exactly.
Pannier mechanism, you're not so keen on.
Oh right, yes. So the panniers themselves, I think look great.
Yeah.
But the mechanism inside, there's a piston here. And if you get anything caught in that piston, you cannot shut that pannier. And when you're stuffing that full at 5 o'clock in the morning, when you're on the road, you can't tell where it is and you have to reshuffle a lot.
Yeah.
But I did get some inner bags and that kind of solved the problem a little bit. But that's an extra that you have to buy. So it's worth paying attention to that. But yeah, you can't really overload them because if you get anything in the way, you're stuck really. So.
Do they come off?
Yeah, they do come off, easy come off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. The lack of toys for the price, I guess.
Yeah, so this wouldn't normally be a problem, but for 20 grand, I'd expect a few extra bits and bobs.
Yeah.
You've got cruise control, that's it. So no heated grips or anything like that. I just kind of, with a Harley,
really want heated grips.
Yeah, a premium bike, you just want a few extra bits really, wouldn't you? But the cruise control works really well.
Yeah,
so
and that's really handy on a long journey, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Number plate gate. What's going on here?
This.
Right.
So if you imagine the bike when it first came to me, it had the single seat.
Yep.
So all of this mudguard was open,
Okay.
and there wasn't this here or anything like that.
Yep.
So what happened was you got a really nice line, and then that.
Ah.
And that is because UK number plates are so much bigger than US
Right.
number plates. So it works with the US one because it's about this size.
Right.
So the UK, it's that big. So it disrupts the line of the bike, but also it means you can't put a rack on here, which is why I've now got a city bar. Because I had hoped to put a rack on the back, but it didn't fit because of the number plate.
Oversight, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you load it up for touring, that's the big thing. You'd either have to relocate this or get an illegal number plate.
See, that's the beauty of running a long-term test bike. We'd never notice that on a road test.
Not at
in a
all.
million years. It's really good.
Yeah, and they didn't really realise that till we went to go fit the rack. They were like, oh, it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
We didn't realise. So.
Okay. The seating position you're not so keen on.
Yeah, so it's a bit better now. I put the new seat on, which is a bit higher. But initially, it did feel like my knees were in my chest. And also, when you're reaching quite far forward to the handlebars, you did get a bit of backache. It was a bit of an odd position.
Kind of in your lower back.
In the lower back. So, you know, I think, again, if you're a bit smaller than me, I'm 5'8", it might be better for you with your legs, if you had shorter legs than me. But for me, yeah, I couldn't get used to that. I had to put a new seat on that raised me up just a little bit because it was just a bit of an awkward angle for me.
Did you have this seat on when you did the big trip? Or did you have the old one on?
No, I had this seat on. No. Yes, I did for Budapest, sorry. But for another big trip up to Scotland, I put a little cushion in on the other seat, so I had a little bit more rise.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, you've spoken about this, rust on the exhaust.
Yeah.
That's not so good, is it? USB port?
Yeah, so it's got a USB port, great.
Yeah.
But what they've done is they've not put it up with the dash where it's nice and secure. They've put it down here,
Oh, God.
just at the top of the engine. And that's not protected at all from everything on the road.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine, you've got water and mud coming up here. So what happens is if you're plugged in there, all the grit and stuff goes into the USB port, and it's not working properly now.
Well, yeah, that was always going to happen, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I've tried it, contact cleaner and all this sort of stuff, and it's still intermittent. It now works sometimes,
Yeah.
but you have to unplug it, replug it a few times because there's no protection for it there whatsoever, and it's not waterproof. So
I suppose these bikes get ridden in Californian highways where it doesn't rain.
Exactly.
And finally, engine light and fault code.
Oh yeah, so I've had one engine fault code on this. Turned out it disappeared after another 20 miles of riding, but I went to go get it checked out because that's what you do. And it's a fault code just when something basically doesn't talk to something else in the bike properly. But what it would do is it would just flash up a fault code. So it was nothing serious, but when I was speaking to the people at Harley-Davidson when it came up, it does that for a lot of stuff. So it's worth checking yourself before you take it in, because usually it's just something and then it disappears. So it's just one of those things to be aware of, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you've really enjoyed your year with this bike. How would you sum up your experience with it?
Well, I've had a great time just being in amongst the Harley culture, firstly. Going to Budapest and up to Thunder in the Glens, it's been amazing. I've really enjoyed every mile on this. It's been really nice going up to places and people asking about the bike, because they have. I think it looks great and I think it suited me really well. But I think if I was parting with my own money, I'd want just a little bit more. I'd want the seating position to be right, and I'd want a few extra bits just because of the price tag.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, thanks very much for taking the time for showing us around the bike. No problem. And thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos like this coming very soon.